All right, here's what I've done so far. I've removed the strut tower brace from the center of the struts on both sides. So got some bolts here and there. I think these were 15. I'd have to check those again. And what I'm doing here is I loosened up the sway bar end link from the bottom and the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unloosen both sides of the strut there, the strut mounts from the top and bottom as well, and then up in here. And I also had to remove the brake caliper just to be safe, since this whole assembly right here is going to drop. So I did not want to pinch that brake hose or tear it. Here's what I got going on so far. So I got the shock out, and I've seen people doing things like they remove the tie rod, and they remove this, and they remove that, and they remove this whole assembly. They take off this whole part. Unnecessary. It's just unnecessary. This part I'm going to take off because there's rust under there. I'm going to hit that up with the wire brush treatment that I give my brake rotors and stuff like that. I'm going to repaint those, so I'll be taking that off. But all I had to do was, after you get it unbolted from the top here, I also had to remove the master cylinder. All right. So I don't know, I might have to bleed that. I'll see how the brakes are, everything I get it all put back together. So it's going to be two 15mm nuts there. And then these are T50 Torx that I had to use for the inner bolts there. And then there's actually two nuts that protrude here, which I had to take off that strut tower brace. And this is what I've got going on here. So the first one that I had to undo, I took off the passenger side first. This is the driver's side. So that's the whole new assembly there. So you got this, I don't know what that is, some isolator, grommet, whatever, that's on the top. So I had to spray this down with PB, penetrating fluid. And so I got this all put together, put that piece back in there. And there's another piece that comes out as well, a little rubber top. So make sure that goes back into place as well, because that did slip out on me. And then I forgot where it went. So when I took apart the driver's side, it all clicked and made sense. Some things are coming together a little better for me. So there's a bottom rubber isolator here that's going to have to go in here. So I had to take it, and then I used a mallet to smash it in there. And then this is that top rubber piece from the same one, that's the stock one. And what I had to do is I had to use spring compressors to compress this down. And I had a hard time getting this off. Like, it did not want to come off. Even though I had the nut off from here, it still was giving me some issues. So what I did was I took the impact and I ran the bolt back down into it and then popped it back out a couple times. And then it just released on its own. So I thought I was going to have to take it to a shop or go get like MAP gas torch. So that was a real pain in the butt. So this is how it goes when you get the whole assembly. I'm going to go grab the other one real quick, continue this. So all these pieces are different. That piece right there, that's going to be the isolator retaining clip. And then this right here, on this one, I had to just take a hammer and just kind of hit the ends around until it sat flush down after I put the spring isolator on there. And this piece is actually going to go up under here. So take this bolt off real fast. The washer stays, and take this rubber coupling or whatever you want to call it, and just going to put it all the way down on top of that, because these are a little bit longer than the factory shocks when it comes to this rod here. So it's pretty good, like bump stop, I guess, if you want to call it that. Slap this back on, and then you just put that nut on. But that's while you put everything else back on. I will try to film me putting this one together. This has been a huge chore. It's been pretty crazy. But I'll take another look up under here. Which I took this castle nut off right here, which I'm going to put back on. It was not necessary. I was trying to remove the ball joint. The ball joint didn't want to come off, so I'm just going to hit this back down with a hammer, try to get it as tight as possible, make sure it's all good. I'm going to put that castle nut back on with the cotter pin. Put that back together after I go ahead and put that back in there, and then I'm going to put that other top assembly after I repaint that. I hit this one up with the wire brush. Get that rust off. I mean, it was bad. It looked just like that other one did. So I'm still going to get in some of the crevices here and still get some of that stuff off, and then spray it down with brake cleaner, and then just shoot it over with some paint. Attention kids, this is only a drill. Alright, what I'm doing here is I'm just going to shoot it with a little bit of paint. All I got is red paint, but it don't matter. Not really going to see it. So put some primer over there. Going to let it dry for however long the instructions say. So use an engine enamel primer, but whatever. This is the same paint that I used on my valve covers when I painted those red. So it's ceramic, holds up the heat, and I don't want any more rust to corrode this piece away. These things are probably expensive since they're not manufactured anymore. There's an aftermarket company, but usually aftermarket companies like that, when they know they got their game on lock with a certain part, they like to charge. Alright, here's what I got going on so far. Had to compress this spring using these spring compressors, and I'm gonna have to reuse this isolator. I was about to say screw it because I was having a hard time with getting these things apart. So these parts were discontinued by GM, and then I would have to like order from Summit or something. I went to 2 different parts stores. They didn't have it. I called Napa. They didn't have it. They actually referred me to call it dealership. And so I got these compressed, and this is the piece that I need here that's on top, and that's what I need right there as well. And also this piece here, which goes on top. Yeah, other way, but whatever. You get the idea. And the 15 millimeter bolt or nut here is what I had to use to get off this whole assembly. And the problem is I was having some issues because these bolts like to stick, and at some point this whole assembly turns right there. This whole thing will spin, and I was trying to use a vice grip and a wrench to get in there, but the wrench seemed proved difficult with these sides right here. I couldn't fit a wrench right in there too easily because of those baffles on the side. So that's pretty much how you get those apart. Just take your time with it. Hit it with penetrating fluid if you have to. Let it sit for a while. Me, I was impatient, and I figured out how to do it the first time, so this time was a lot easier. Otherwise, I probably would have had the vehicle done the night before, and there wouldn't have been a part 2 to the suspension build here. Alright, first thing I'm going to put together, since I don't have a vise, I do have a mallet. So I'm going to put this lower isolator for the spring into this retainer that sits pretty much on the bottom of the shock. So I'm just going to go around. And you're just going to bang that in there until it's all nice. Next thing to do, after you get that all in there nice and flush, it's going to look uneven because this does spiral upwards. And that's how the spring is going to sit in there. So it retains the spring from moving around. Slide that on there like so. And then this isolator piece, or this little cap, you're going to have to take a hammer. And you're going to have to just bang around the top, or you can take like a socket extension and just hit the ends, maybe get a punch. But I was able to do it with just a regular hammer. Right, here we go. So pretty much what you can do, just go all the way around until you get that on there. All right, so I got it all seated in there. You can see little cutout grooves here. When you see that it's all flush and down, you'll know too, some of that paint will probably just chip right off. So you see that chipped off there, everywhere. So that's how it sits, and it keeps the bottom isolator from coming up and off. I don't like how easy that paint comes off. I hope that doesn't rust. But it's inevitable. That's what happens. Right, so I got this all put together so far. Got the isolator, you got your spring. Big side goes down. It's under top, at the top. So we got that stopper there, the rubber piece. Got a washer. And then take that dust cover and I'm going to slide it on down in there. Oh, anyway, won't be a pain in the butt. no biggie. So it stops there. And then we'll just put that spring back on. No problem. But also make sure that it is lined up. So where the end of the spring is, it jams into that little stopper, lines up like this. And when you put the shock back into the car, you're gonna have like it angling towards down at you. Kind of just like this at an angle towards you. Like my gloves. All right, the vehicle's all done. I didn't video putting back in the front end. It became such a hassle that I wanted to get it done. I had the car on jack stands for 2 days, so it was getting a little tedious. So I really didn't record too much of the assembly putting it back together, but I'm hoping at least that someone got the gist of what needs to be done and that it can be done yourself. Don't need to take your car to a shop. And just got that tape measure right there. And see, I could stick my whole fist in there before. Now it's just that's not even a factor. Got my little Stanley tape measure there. So it's all slammed, it's lowered, car's been settled, driven it around for a while, so everything's in place. It handles really nicely. With the bump stops in there too. I can feel that the bump stops hang a little low, so I might have to trim those down a bit because it does slam pretty hard on big bumps, things like that. But it's better than the bottom of the car slamming into the differential itself. And that was on the last video. But that's it, she's done. She rides pretty smooth for what it is. I mean, the whole setup isn't bad. But if you got the extra money and you're looking to do this mod, I say go with coilovers in the rear. It'll probably handle a lot better because it does hop a bit on bumpy roads. But with coilovers, I'm sure it would hop a lot less. So just spend that extra money and get it all done. And that's it. So I appreciate you watching. Hope you learned something from it. And this is Chemical Spore, out.